All right. Good evening. Hello. I'm Sharona. You are watching The Extra Point. We come to you live every Friday night, 6 o'clock p.m., 7 o'clock p.m., 6 o'clock Eastern, Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking AFC South and NFC South. And tonight we are talking AFC South and Houston, Texans, and I have my girl, Claire Mullins, here to talk with me about her thoughts on the Texans NFL draft, and we'll talk a little bit about, get her thoughts on the other teams in the AFC South and how they did. Claire, I want to get you to come in and say hi to everyone and tell them where they can find you. And obviously, I want you to talk a little bit about the fantabulous Wednesday night podcast with NFL Female.
Well, thank you, Sharona. I always appreciate you having me. It's a blast just to talk to you for an hour or whatever
I
about
know,
football.
love it too.
It's good times. You're awesome. And so, yeah, you can find me at NFL Female. I'm the official fan reporter for the Houston Texans. And I write sometimes. It got a little bit bleary last season, so I chilled out a little while, but I'm ready now. It's time to come back to writing. So I'll probably post something in the next week over there. And then I do the NFL Wednesday Night with NFL Female podcast. I'm the co-host of that with Dana O'Gorman, and she is the Seattle Seahawks official fan reporter for NFL Female. And so, yeah, we definitely have fun on Wednesday nights, and you can find me on Twitter at TheClaireBear23, and I will always tweet out a link to the show before the show starts, so that's how you can find it.
All right. Well, I want to tell you that your hair looks fabulous. I love it. Not loved your hair before, but it's a good look. I like this. It really does suit you very well.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that.
So I always love talking football with my girl Claire, and if you follow me, if you've watched this show, you know that while I cover the Titans and I live in the Nashville area, I have some mad love for some of the players because I am very much a football fan and I enjoy watching good football players. I'm very much a fan of some of the Texans, and in particular a guy that you're going to see down there on my tagline, and that is one Andre Johnson. We're going to talk a little bit about the very much developing Andre Johnson situation down in Houston. We might play a little bit if we can get it uploaded in here. Been working on that. I don't know. I'm not very tech savvy, but if we can play a little bit of his press conference, we will. But Claire, before we get to Andre, obviously we both love him and we can talk about him all day. Let's talk a little bit about your draft. I really liked a lot of the moves that you made. The Jadeveon Clowney pick, we've talked about that before. Kind of a no-brainer, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I wanted really badly for Johnny Manziel to be Bill O'Brien's football guy, his QB guy that he would trust for the next few years to run the offense, but he wasn't. And so, you know what? Good. Took the best player available. May not have been my player, but you got the guy everyone wanted and wants on their team and would have taken had they had the first pick most likely. So, yeah, I think good consensus call.
I think you got the guy that you could sit there and say he's special. And not that Johnny Manziel isn't special, but he comes with, to me, more question marks than Jadeveon Clowney. I know a lot of people like to make much ado about a little bit about the whole, oh my God, he was lazy, no effort, blah, blah, blah. He's a fantastic football player. He is a guy that can be a difference maker, knock on wood, as long as no injuries and things like that, for a long, long time. And so, in that sense, I think that you just couldn't pass that up. I did find it interesting. I want to get your thoughts on this because I kind of love this, and I wish I could remember who coined it. I cannot take credit for this, but somebody said that the Texans' draft philosophy seemed to be, if we don't have a quarterback, you won't have one either, because we're going to neutralize your offense with our very fantastic defense.
I'm okay with that. if you have a brand new coach who happens to be a QB guru and he doesn't see the guy up high that he wants to trade for or find a way to get or
Right.
draft, then why not kill all the other quarterbacks?
Yeah,
I
right.
don't. That philosophy is a good philosophy. It served us well in the past. So, and then the fact that we did, I know you're going to probably get to this, but Tom Savage
Yeah.
wasn't anyone that I thought about that closely just because he did some college hopping, and I sort of assumed that that would be a turnoff to NFL teams. But the more I hear about him, the more it's like he knew he should be a starter. He had a chip on his shoulder in almost a good way. So I don't know. I'm hearing good things about him coming out of OTAs and our mandatory
You could have
minicamp college.
definitely, to me, you could have definitely picked a worse
Yes.
developmental quarterback. There's absolutely no question whatsoever. I liked that pick. I think that he is a guy that Bill O'Brien and his coaching staff saw something in. I was with you. I'm like, wait, now how many colleges did, and then this was like way early in the pre-draft process. He was a guy that some draftniks liked, some didn't particularly care, for him. And he's definitely a work in progress. I think the only thing, and I know Claire may disagree with me here, which is perfectly fine. The only thing about it that I was like, is I just don't know that you got anybody that's better than Case Keenum. And so, I mean, if you want competition, if you want numbers, I think okay. But I just don't know that he's a guy that's going to give you anything better than what Case brings. What do you think, Claire?
I don't think the consensus around here is that Case Keenum is an NFL starter.
Okay.
He was an undrafted free agent for a reason. He was pushed. Gary Kubiak was pushed into starting him by ownership because Matt Schaub was getting booed and people weren't going to come to games if Matt Schaub was starting. And Case Keenum was a local guy. I don't see him ever. Once he's been hit by NFL quarterbacks, he seemed to get pretty skittish. I
Yeah.
don't know if I ever see him coming back to where he was that first couple games where we said, "Oh,
He had 3 games. Yeah, he had 3 games where he was pretty good. Yeah.
yeah." I just don't see him coming back to that point where we said, "Oh, yeah, he's way better than we thought he was going to be." I that personally don't.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a fair point. No, completely fair. Definitely once he started getting rattled, he started showing the fact that he had not played much in a pro style offense and wasn't prepared to deal with some of the things that he was seeing.
Mm-hmm.
In the first 3 games, it took 3 games, maybe you might even
Yeah.
argue 2.5 for teams to kind of figure him out and start hitting him with things that, he wasn't prepared for. But in all fairness, he got thrown into a pretty toxic situation.
He did. It was a bad situation. Our offensive line wasn't what it had been in recent years. We had some injuries. We had Wade Smith who didn't perform nearly as well as he did in the past,
The
and
running game was just decimated by injury.
was our rusher. And God love Browns fans for being so stoked on Ben Tate. I'm really happy they're happy they got him. So good luck. I mean, I hope he does well for them, unless they play, except for when they play the Texans. But other than that, good luck, and I hope he doesn't get injured. But I don't see, a top 15 running back there. I just don't. So
Yeah, yes, and I've got to admit, I felt kind of bad for Ben Tate, and so I am really very much hoping that he does well with the Cleveland Browns. They did draft a guy that I think can come in and give him some serious competition, but yeah, it was just a very difficult and trying season for the Texans, and kind of a perfect opportunity I want to come back to the draft, but this is a perfect opportunity, I think, for us to talk a little bit about Andre and the things that he said. If you haven't, and I'm not technologically smart or competent. So I can't really. I tried to figure out how to bring that press conference in, and just couldn't. If you have not seen the Andre Johnson press conference, don't rely on the reports about it. It really would do you good to watch it. I think that it brings a lot more clarity to where he's coming from. Don't you agree?
I'm actually about to tweet it out the link right
Okay.
now. We're talking about it, and I saw it just very recently. Yeah. Figure why not get it out there. But yeah, I think you need to like read it. He doesn't sound angry. He
No,
sounds
he's not.
resigned. So this is
No,
my thing.
he sounds like a guy who's played for what, 12 years, something like that,
Yep.
and is tired of losing. He's
Yep.
tired of, and I think that and I don't think that he is mad at the Texans, and I don't think that he's mad at some of the kind of crappy quarterbacks he's been forced to play with. He just sounds depressed because, you know, he wants to win more. He knows that his days are, he's entering the twilight of his career. He's still a great player. By no means is his does his play seem to be greatly diminished at all. But he knows that he's not going to play he's not going to play 15 more years. I would
Right.
say,
Exactly.
what, maybe about 5 more years.
I think that's a general consensus, barring major injury, obviously. I mean, that's what the typically elite receivers want to
Right.
have in. The lucky ones do. So, yeah, that should be about right.
And I think another thing too, he didn't talk about this in his press conference, but Claire and I have talked about it, and it's really a shame when you look at his numbers. He's got the yardage numbers are there, but the touchdown numbers are just not there, and it's because the Texans in the red zone have either been, we'll hand it off to Arian Foster or whatever the running back of the moment, or we'll throw it to the tight end.
Yeah,
Some
pretty much.
some middle level tight end, and and gosh, my heart goes out to him, and I love Andre Johnson. He is a fantastic football player. It's just a really sad situation for me. He's got a pretty stiff contract, though. Do you think that the Texans are interested, first of all, in moving him, and secondly, if they are interested, that you would have to think that it's like a one hand number list of teams that might actually be willing to do that.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to guess which team would be willing to do that because Andre Johnson is just the type of guy that any quarterback worth his salt would love to have. I mean, there are teams that wouldn't do it, like that Browns guy. He's all over the place saying, "We're doing this for Andre, we're doing that for Andre." Well, you're not. It's not going to happen. And they just got Miles Austin, who now he says is trade bait for Andre Johnson. I don't know. Then you have like Bills fans saying we're going to make a move for him. Well, no, you're not. Well, probably not. You just got 3 wide receivers in the off season.
Yeah.
So I haven't looked down the whole 32, but I don't know. It's hard to say where he might end up. But the fact is if we do trade him, from my understanding, and I'm not good with the salary cap thing. I'm just not. It's not my forte at all. But from what I understand is if we move him by June 6th, the Texans will have a lot of dead money, but they'll actually save $3.5 million towards
Yeah.
cap.
Yeah, I do think that from the numbers I saw, I should have pulled these before the show and did not. But as I recall, they definitely have some cap savings, and it's a more advantageous trade for them if they do it before that June date as opposed to after
Right.
that June date. And there's certainly nothing that would prevent Andre Johnson from reworking his contract to help facilitate a trade. So there are a lot of things, the Texans would want to get something in exchange, whether it's a player or, a draft pick. And
Well, you
so,
see that Browns guy, according to him, Andre Johnson's worth 2 firsts in 2015. So, you never know, Sharona. I'm being sarcastic.
All
So,
right.
yeah, I don't see two firsts at all. I
I
think
don't either.
Tony Gonzalez got a second, and that would curl my toes if the Texans could get a second for Andre. But
Yeah.
if not, a third maybe. I don't
I
know.
think it's a third. I said a third. Maybe a third and a fifth or something like that, or
Yeah.
a
Or
third
a
and
player.
yeah.
That's too many variables, but yeah.
Yeah. Um, he didn't really, and I again encourage you to actually watch the clip of him speaking on this. I mean, he wasn't like, "Oh, hell no, I'm not going to attend OTAs or blah blah blah." He was asked a question about whether or not, he was going to participate, and he kind of paused for a minute and said, if I had to say right now, I would say no, I'm not going to. But I mean, it wasn't like it was so blown out of proportion to
Yeah.
me. It was just ridiculous. So you
Well, and
watch it.
every headline, I'm sorry, every
No,
headline
no,
though
no.
after that saying Andre Johnson plans to not attend OTAs. He plans to not attend mandatory training. What he didn't say I don't plan to. He's like at this moment I don't feel like I want to is what he
Yeah.
essentially said.
Yeah. So very much a developing situation. Again, like we mentioned before. I I do want to though talk to you. I had not. I try to pop on the Battle Red blog as much as possible. I've been so busy doing a lot of other things. I haven't had much of a chance. I peeped that comparison article with Barry Sanders. Some really startling similarities there.
Some really startling similarities, and I mean, when you look at it, that maybe Andre's situation, the way they lay it out, and yeah, I guess it's all factual pretty much. Andre's situation may be worse
Yeah.
than his was, and if it comes down to them not pulling a trade for him, does that mean he sits out? Does that mean he potentially retires? I mean, does he say my career is over unless I'm out of Houston? Because it doesn't sound like he's saying my career is over, period, like Barry Sanders said.
Yeah. Did you agree with there's an article to talk with I believe it was Troy Brown talking about the fallout from that. Did you agree with him that Andre Johnson was going to be like persona non grata down there? I didn't.
No.
Yeah,
God,
right.
he's revered. He's like a saint in Houston. He could run for mayor right now and beat whoever, yeah, anybody.
Yeah, I kind of scratched my head about that too. I think the statement was, and I'm probably badly paraphrasing, but he said Andre Johnson has to be traded. He can't show his face around there or something like that. He's going to have to apologize. He can't show his face around there. And I was like, dude, did we watch the same thing?
Yeah, and I mean, you just have to look at it from the overall perspective. The thing is he's been here for 11 years. He probably really thought Gary was going to stick around, and we would be 11-5, 12-4 for a little while, and then everything changes, and he signed the contract. Okay, apparently it's not the greatest contract to his benefit, but he signed it. And you take a risk in your career. Like, I left my pharmaceutical career to go work in sports, and the team I chose to work for, it didn't work out very well. And I can't just go back to my pharmaceutical career. You take these risks in life by signing a contract, say, for 4 years, as he did, and you hope it works out. And if it doesn't, and you can't be traded or you can't get out of your new situation, well, it kind of just sucks. You have to wait it out.
Well, he's going to be very well compensated, and
He's poor.
from my perspective, and you're definitely more tuned in to what the Houston people think and all of that. But from my perspective, I would be shocked if Andre Johnson holds out this year. I think that he will play, and I think that he'll play like he always has with his same level of commitment and talent. But I do think that from a Texans perspective, if they can, and it is so funny to me. I just remember this distinctly, Claire. Us having a conversation, it's probably been a few months ago, about Andre Johnson finishing his career down there, and that they need to make that happen, that he is, like the epitome of what it means to be a Texan. And now here we are talking about him being traded. It really makes me sad.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden, he speaks his mind, and he isn't thinking what we think he's thinking. We didn't know. I think we all assumed he was probably a bit dissatisfied, but he was just going to go with the flow. This is the way the business works. Well,
Right.
if he has other options and he wants to pursue those options, what can a Houstonian do but hope him the best? Because he's done everything he needs. If you had 21 other players on the Texans who were played as hard as Andre Johnson, not even as well, but as hard as Andre Johnson, that would be an amazing football team.
Oh, absolutely.
But
Absolutely. Who wouldn't want to have 22 Andre Johnsons on their football team?
right, exactly. I mean, he's just the epitome of. You never hear about him coming in to camp overweight or out of shape or complaining or doing anything. He hasn't done anything off the field wrong. He's had a few transgressions on the field, but from my perspective, I've never played football and had
You
people.
wouldn't be talking about him whooping Cortland Finnegan's ass, would you?
That was one of them, yeah. I've never had people attacking me and putting fingers in my helmet while I'm trying to catch a football, so I can't say I wouldn't freak out. I mean, I would get in trouble. I would be sent home, and I'd probably be told not to come back for a little while. I don't know. That happened to him, too. And then walking away off the field with Matt Schaub's situation, man, at that point, Andre Johnson's under contract, but he's feeling like that whole team is against him. Matt Schaub isn't throwing the pass correctly. Gary Kubiak brought Matt Schaub in whenever Case Keenum had been throwing TDs to Andre Johnson. He's getting consistent TDs for the first time in his career, and
Right.
you take that away. And then the guy throwing the passes is like, nah, man, it's your fault. You ran the wrong route.
Yeah. That had to be a gut punch. I mean, for serious.
Yeah.
Andre Johnson's putting up career numbers. Case Keenum's in there at quarterback, and they yank him and put Schaub back in, and Schaub has to come after Andre. Of all people, for you, I mean,
Awful.
that whole thing was just it was just a mess. So,
Yeah.
well, we're going to keep an eye on this, and if any big developments happen, we'll definitely have Claire back on to continue to talk about it. I mean, I hope that, as a football fan, I hope that they're able to come to some sort of happy resolution for both sides. I'm not sure exactly what that might be. I think if they can swing, if the Texans can swing a nice trade and send Andre, there's a lot of talk about the Patriots. I don't know that the Patriots have the money right now. There would have to be some some shuffling of resources and whatnot to be able to do it. There are definitely teams. I mean, the Panthers would be another football team, although they don't have the money. Probably they would have to do some shuffling of resources, to do that too. I'm actually kind of surprised that Jerry Jones hasn't been. Maybe he is, and we just haven't heard about it. I mean, they don't have the money either. But, again, you can get creative. Nobody thought the New Orleans Saints would be able to swing that Jarius Byrd deal. So, we'll see. All right, let's
go somewhere. I don't care about if he goes somewhere like Arizona or Tampa Bay, where we hardly ever play them and you don't hear much about them. That would be nice for him to be. I hope he wins.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So back to the draft. Were there any real big surprises for you? Besides, we talked about Tom Savage. Any other things that were kind of big surprises to you?
Stuafilo, the second round #1 pick. I mean, again, as a person who kind of pays attention to the draft, not like in depth, I know every top 100 players information or anything, but I pay attention to a degree. I was surprised that we decided to go offensive guard right there and go with Suafila, which I was pleasantly pleased, actually surprised. I was pleasantly surprised because if you're not going to have a big arm, crazy gunslinging quarterback and a whole lot of receiving options available for that person, then why not go with a stout running game and a stout defense and a great offensive line to make it? So I can see the logic. I like it.
Well, you build your teams from the inside out, and they, in the first round, added a defensive lineman. Second round, added an offensive lineman. I find it hard to hate on that. Just, again, as an outsider looking in, I have to give them a big thumbs up for that. I'm very much a fan of that thought process. So, yeah. Well, take us just real quickly. We talked about Tom Savage. Take us real quickly through the rest of the picks, and then we'll move on and talk a little bit of how they match up and compare to the AFC South, and we'll also talk a little bit about Robert Mathis.
Okay. Well, we also had in the third round, with our first third-round pick, we traded back in there, but the first third-round pick, C.J. Fedorowicz, who is a really tall, I've read 6'7" and 6'5", so he's a very tall, lean but thick sort of tight end, and kind of, I don't want to say it because it's almost presumptuous, but I've heard a lot of in the mold of Rob Gronkowski. So that would be pleasant. I mean, why not? And he was still on the board, and he was a great value where he got drafted. And so, yeah, I'm down with the tight end, the corn-fed tight end from Iowa. That's cool. We have a couple of younger tight ends. We lost Owen Daniels.
Right.
And figure new staff. Let's give them a chance.
You re-signed Garrett Graham, right?
Yeah, and Ryan Griffin. So they're both younger. But I don't know, this offense, if you don't have the big arm quarterback at your service right now, why not be stocked at tight end? So
yeah, I wonder what Andre thought about that, because to me that just reeks of red zone target.
Yeah, it probably does.
Yeah.
Good point. Absolutely. Yeah. The next guy we went with, we traded into the third round because Lewis Nix was still there. The big, giant nose tackle. He's prototypical 3'4", 350 pounds. You should see him stretching out that jersey at voluntary minicamp right now. It's a little snug, but he looks good in it, and I'm excited to see what he does.
I thought that was a very I thought you got so lucky, and I was a little ticked off that you got that lucky.
Yeah, we haven't had a big nose tackle around here, and everybody who cares at all about personnel on the field, but we need a big fat nose tackle to stuff the run, and apparently we have one now, so that's exciting.
He's a good player. You'll definitely, I think, enjoy him.
Do you see him on Twitter? He's pretty funny.
He is hilarious on Twitter.
Irish chocolate, talking about going to get chicken, and he just cracks me up. So that's a good follow. Funny. Definitely. Yeah, so moving on down, Tommy Savage, 6'4", 228, Pittsburgh. I mean, fourth round.
Yeah.
How mad can you be at a fourth round QB shot? What, I'm for it. What do you think about him?
Again, I go back and forth on whether that's a smart move or not. On the one hand, you definitely want to have a developmental quarterback on your roster. On the other hand, late round, and fourth round kind of falls in the middle. A lot of people thought he might go later. A lot of, there was some disagreement on where he might ultimately end up getting drafted. And I'm not a fan of the reach argument too. I really don't have a problem with the pick. Not at all when you consider what their quarterback situation is. I didn't have
Right.
a problem with the pick. But, it's very rare for a later round quarterback to ever do anything.
That's
So, the numbers are stacked against him. We'll see.
right. And I think that maybe he is the guy that they thought had the best value that they're willing to take a shot on this year, because I get the sense that they're counting on their guy coming out next year, which is
Yeah.
scary, or finding somebody in free agency. Because you're not going to. How long are you really going to count on Fitzpatrick? I mean, are you hearing?
Girl, don't count on. And
Right.
I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. Everybody knows that. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick. But he just cannot stop turning the ball over.
Yeah, it's bad. It's very bad. Um, it is what it is, and hopefully, I don't know. We'll just see what happens. Even fumbles. I mean, I looked at his fumble number. I don't even remember what it was now, but I was surprised. Like, oh my God! On top of the ints, look at those fumbles.
I mean, I will never forget Will Blackman of the Jacksonville Jaguars just ran up and took the ball out of his hand, and I was like,
He's just sitting there
what?
holding it like it's a sandwich or something.
I was like, that just happened. And it wasn't the first, and it happened again, and I forget who did it the second time because
Oh,
I only had room for that one. But yeah, I mean that happened.
well, I'm not. I hope he can keep it together. I pray he can keep it together. But who knows? I'm hoping Tom Savage can be at least have that like initial rookie QB thing that a lot of them have before people figure them out in game 4 or 5 of their career, and at least get through the season. I don't know. I've said often I don't expect much this season, but I do expect improvement.
Yeah.
So the improvement,
Well,
I'm a happy
you'll
girl.
win 2 games, and surely you in the AFC South, the way it's looking to be configured right now, I mean, surely you could win at least 2 more,
You'd like to think, right? But did you
right?
think like maybe 8 out of 12 of the games we lost last season, they didn't even look like we would lose them. They didn't look like they were lost until fourth quarter something or another happens, and then we lose it. So we played decently in several situations last year. I want to see us just play better. I don't. It's not even so much the record this year. I want to see us play better and finish the ball game.
Yeah,
Finish it.
I can understand that.
Yeah. So, and then maybe next year we'll go back to trying to be like 12-4 and stuff. We'll see.
All right, so you've got what, 2 more picks?
Yeah. We were at Tom Savage. Jeffrey Pagan. Well, actually, we don't have 2 more picks. We have a zillion more picks. We have Jeffrey Pagan, defensive end from Alabama. I don't know much about him. He has been projected to have a decent shot, a surprising shot of making the roster because the guy playing there right now is not very good, Jared Crick. So we'll see. Alfred Blue upset a lot of people because, was it Storm Johnson was still on the – no, it wasn't Storm Johnson. It was somebody else was still on the board. And Seastrunk was still on the board.
Oh,
And
yeah.
everybody, why wouldn't you take Seastrunk over big, giant, bulky Alfred Blue? But we took him, and he's from LSU, and he's a running back. Jay Prost, a fullback who is like a true fullback, blocking mainly. And then Andre Hall, cornerback. That was a pretty good pick. I was excited on that one. He was a steal. And Lonnie Valentine, Mr. Irrelevant from Memphis, free safety. Yeah. So I don't know much.
All right, well, that's a nice little draft class. We had a conversation Tuesday night on the NFL female webcast, the Zone Blitz, about what are your expectations regarding how many starters that you're going to get out of an average draft class. It sounds to me like a legit possibility that the Texans could get 3, maybe 4.
That's exactly what I'm
So,
thinking.
yeah, if they can do that, I mean, you have to think, 2 thumbs up. That's an outstanding draft class.
I'm feeling good. Now talk to me. People were trying to analyze 2012, and I feel like we haven't seen enough of those guys to start talking about them yet. So talk to me in 3 years, maybe even 4, about this draft class, and we'll see what we think at that point. But on paper, I like the way it looks. It fits our needs, and we got some great value.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree about that. So, if you had to, and first of all, let me give everybody this disclaimer, my standard disclaimer. Claire just touched on it way too early to judge any draft class, but I like to do it anyway because I like to be able to go back later and come back and say, how did I do judging that class? You know? And so, if you had to judge the class, a, B, C, D, E, F, or A, B, C, D, F, no E's in there. How would you, what would you give them?
Well, like you say, it's really hard. I disclaimer the heck out of myself on anything I talk about draft class grades because we just don't know. On this team especially with all the unknowns, what the coaches are going to do with them, whatever. But on paper, filling needs, shoring it up from the inside out, I'd probably go with the B+.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, that's a nice grade.
Yeah, I mean, better than what we've seen. So that's. I think it's a more what's the word I want to use? Almost safer, but I feel like even being safe, we still got some picks that were kind of exciting. So that's good.
Yeah, I'm tweeting this out because we're going to talk a little bit about AFC South and all right, there, AFC South and Robert Mathis talked to. I can live with that. I mean, I think I don't know that I ever actually sat down and gave them a letter grade. I did say that if you stacked the AFC South up in terms of best to least in terms of their overall draft, the Texans were up here. The Texans and the Jaguars were at the top, and the Titans and the Colts were at the bottom.
I know you have some really strong feelings, and I actually wrote myself a question so I could ask you.
Uh-oh.
Because if anyone's watching for my sake that I'm on here, they care about your team too. So tell me about what the Titans did in the draft, and how do you feel, Sharona?
Well, I was not happy
Yeah.
with the Titans 2014 NFL draft. I gave them an overall D for their draft. I didn't think that they got particularly good value, and they drafted two players with some rather serious off-the-field character questions. So and even outside that, and I've talked a lot about the Taylor Lewan pick. I'm still so terribly disappointed in them over that. But even if you get past, you can get past. I'm not past it. I don't think I'll ever be past it. But if you can get past the fact that they did that, it didn't make. They could have definitely done a lot better just from a football perspective. There were a lot of really good football players on the board at that point, and they could have drafted an offensive tackle later on. Yeah. So even taking away all the character stuff, I was like, gosh, really? There are all these great players out there, and why did you sign Michael Oher? And then there were some rumors now after that happened that they were looking to trade their Pro Bowl left tackle Mike Roos. So I don't know. I would like to think that there's a plan here.
Yeah.
But I'm not seeing a very good plan by the Titans. And the other thing that bothers me is that they came out in their pre-draft stuff. They were going to move on from Kenny Britt. You knew that. Lots of off-the-field issues with him, and just a really disappointing 2013 season for him. He's had injuries and stuff. Here they are. They're finally cleaning up their locker room. they're saying all the right things. They went into their pre-draft stuff. Oh yes, we're going to focus on character and blah 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 blah, and then they did anything but that. So
Yeah.
they're really hard to trust right now. If you're a fan, it's really hard to trust what they're doing right now. Now there were some players that I liked. I thought, even though I didn't think that the trade and where they got him was out. I wouldn't say it's outstanding value,
Mhm.
but I like the players, so I will give them a good grade for it, and that's the Bishop Sankey pick
Yeah.
in the second round. He's a good player. Some people aren't sold on him. Others think he's, the bee's knees or whatever. He definitely fills not only a need, but, being a guy that was pretty high on some draft boards. So, that
Mhm.
one's okay. They didn't have a third round draft pick. They brought in 2 developmental players in the 4th round. The 5th round pick I really, really, really liked. It's a linebacker out of Kentucky, a team captain, a solid guy both on the field and off the field. His name is Avery Williamson. And then they traded up. They traded up in the
Mhm.
6th round, giving up their 6th round pick and their 7th round pick to draft Zach Mettenberger out of LSU, quarterback,
How do you feel?
the other guy with off the field issues. So that's their draft. I don't know. I mean, fingers crossed. For them and for their fans and all that. I definitely think that they picked up some good players in the off season in free agency, so maybe that'll help. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, yeah, I was agreeing with you. That's all. I know a lot of people around here were hoping the Texans would take Mattenberger because of his big old thick arm, his ability to get the ball way down the field. So, I think that he looks like he's stuck in quicksand sometimes when he's
Someone
playing.
wants to say hi to you, Claire.
Hi,
Uh,
baby. How cute! I should have let my Floyd in so you could
she's
say
a
hi.
mess. She goes through these stages. Sometimes she's really interested in getting over here and being
Okay.
in action, and sometimes she's like snoring over there on the couch.
Well, that's precious.
I
I
know.
always want doggy time.
I understand the infatuation by some people with Zach Mettenberger. I mean, I
Hmm.
do. I definitely do understand that. He did some nice things. He got kicked off you got to do some serious stuff to get kicked off the Georgia football team, and he did. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So he ended up at LSU and did some nice things there. Has a big arm. That's kind of a guy that new Titans head coach Ken Wisenhunt seems to like.
Hmm.
So, in that sense, you see what it is, but I don't know. I mean, I have a hard time thinking that this is a guy that they want to try to do a hard sell on as the face of their franchise. Maybe they will.
Right. Well, good luck. Not too much luck, but I hope he doesn't make you sad.
Right? Oh, it's okay. I mean, I'm just being real. I mean,
That's all you
saying
can
what I think. So, we'll see. There's still a lot of off season left to go. A lot of evaluation, and
do.
she's still sitting down here like, why aren't you picking me up?
If you can like
Um,
tell your pretty little face on camera, we could have Sharona and dog.
no, there she goes. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I would. What do you think, Claire? If you had to grade the Titans draft, give us your thoughts and how would you grade it?
I mean, honestly, yeah, it's hard to understand what they were thinking with Taylor Lewan. I don't see it again. Maybe there's a plan, and maybe like me saying a C because of their first overall pick, it's going to be stupid in 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a month, 3 months, whatever. Maybe it's dumb, but I think like a C. I mean, a C's average. I feel like they came away kind of average. They got players that were good values, and I don't know if necessarily they always fit their needs.
Do
But
you
running back
feel?
was
Well, let me ask you this: did you walk away from the NFL draft collectively, the 3-day process,
Mhm.
and go, wow, the Titans really kicked ass and they got a lot better, and I'm scared now.
No, but maybe they saw something going on because maybe they planned for Jadeveon Clowney and J.J. Watt, and maybe Taylor Lewan has something to do with all that. I don't know. Maybe they have things we're thinking of. Like, I don't know. You just put the thought in my head, and yeah, of course, teams are going to have plans that they're not telling us that aren't readily apparent. But maybe there's a big reason that they didn't wow us. Maybe they're going to wow us later with what they did. I don't know.
Maybe let's talk about the Jags. How do you feel about the Jags draft?
Theirs was really, really good. Their plan was to improve offensively and get the ball in the air, and they stuck with it. And I think they got some good players.
Were you
Sort of.
surprised at all at the Blake Bortles pick?
Oh, I think I got knocked off my bar stool with that pick. I think I may have actually cheered for that one at the moment. You know, you look at it a little closer, you're like, well, maybe it works to their favor. But then I was like, oh my God, that's so Jagsy. I mean, it was just totally Jaguars. Get Blake Bortles at 3. Blame
I
Bortles.
was shocked at it too, but I will say this, and I've always been a fan of a team identifying their guy,
Mm-hmm.
and going and getting him. And a lot of people like Blake Bortles. I wasn't I had if I had to rank them, I would have said Teddy, who was the only guy I really wanted to draft in the first round.
Yeah.
Teddy, Johnny Cleveland, Johnny Manziel, and then
Yeah.
Blake Bortles.
So, were you super upset that your team didn't take Teddy when he was still there?
I
And
definitely thought that would have been a better pick.
yeah, I hear you. I was so mad whenever Minnesota jumped up to 32 and picked him,
Yeah.
and Texans had a 33 pick, and we didn't have a quarterback,
Oh,
and
that's
then
why they did it. They knew. Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely why they did it.
it was infuriating. So yeah, okay, they have Bortles. So honestly, I have a soft spot in my heart for Jaguars fans. I don't know what it is. Collectively, you know, you talk to different groups of fans on Twitter or whatever.
They are funny on
They're
Twitter.
funny. And they tend to be surprisingly smart for Jacksonville. Of course, most of them don't live in Jacksonville. No offense to Jacksonville, but it has a reputation, and they tend to be self-deprecating once you get past that
I
hard
love my
experience.
Jacksonville peeps. A big shout out to all my Jacksonville
I
peeps. I
love
love
them.
them.
They're
And they are Duval, as a right, as a Twitter group, they're so fun.
they're
You don't want to mess with Jaguars Twitter, I'm telling you.
no,
They can be,
you don't. You don't have to mess with any Twitter, but Jaguars Twitter will like funny you and poke at you and make you sad that you
yeah,
not sad, but like humiliated sad.
they'll make you regret.
Definitely.
They
I love
will.
them.
So
So
funny.
they have Marquise Lee and Allen Robinson now for Blake Bortles to throw passes to. So, maybe that works out to their benefit, and maybe they all show us, and they're going to outscore Andrew Luck every 2 times a year, and we'll see, but maybe
They
not.
they also drafted a guy in the 5th round that I really liked, a linebacker slash safety, a roving Insepticopter called Telvin Smith.
Yes.
I'm kind of interested to see what they do with him. He is a fantastic athlete. They made some great decisions. The Jaguars are getting better.
They are.
Gus Bradley's the real deal, and I think that given what we're getting ready to talk about next, the Jaguars may be the surprise pick for the AFC South, or maybe not so surprising if you've really been paying attention, because you could see the improvement last year.
Absolutely.
We haven't talked about the Colts, and we got about a little bit over 10 minutes left. It was released today, that Colts linebacker slash defensive end Robert Mathis has
Yes.
been suspended for 4 games for violation of the league's policy against performance-enhancing drugs. He came out with a statement and said that it was because of a fertility drug. Now, obviously, he did something to get in the program, and we don't know what his, what his history is or what have you. Do you want to know what I care about, why or how he got in the program or got suspended?
I would love to know.
Yeah. I don't care. I think that it's way past time for the league to redo its drug testing policies and procedures, and so that's pretty much all I have to say about that. But the loss of the loss of him for the 4 games, I think definitely gives the Jaguars, who play them first, I believe, and then the Titans, who play them in that time span, a little extra probability of winning, because he is definitely one of their best defensive players.
Yeah, oh, definitely. He had, what, 19.5 sacks last season?
It's a crazy number.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the talks for a defensive player. He was amazing last season, and so this year he's going to miss the game at Denver, which, bummer, because then it's like, I don't know, crazy Colts at Broncos and no one to stop.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that'll be talked to death.
Yeah, right. That won't come up at all in the media. Then Philly. Okay, so Nick Foles needs someone to sack him, and then Jacksonville, and then you guys. So yeah. Some implications on the division, some implications for a big-time rivalry. So it's kind of major. It's just.
Do you believe him, Claire? Do you care?
Everybody really. It's pretty much I don't care.
Yeah.
You broke the rules. You know what the rules are. You make it not happen, breaking the rules.
Yeah.
And it's up to you. It's not up to. Unfortunately, I'm not the world's biggest Roger Goodell fan, and I'm sorry to, if that upsets anybody, but this is one thing where, okay, maybe it's a bit much with the rule, but you know what the rule is, and your job says you can't take these drugs, and you took this drug. Suck it up. You missed 4 games. So.
Yeah, the thing is, and I don't care either, and blah, blah, blah. There are a lot of things on that list that you're like, what? Are you kidding me? That's on the list? How crazy. The flip side to that is it's very easy for you to check and find out whether or not a medication you're taking is a problem.
It's a prescribed drug that,
and there are more than one mechanisms. You can go to the team's trainer, or you can go through the NFL, and so,
Yeah, like his agent was on ESPN and said, yeah, well, he didn't call me and tell me, which made me look and realize his agent could have just gotten the name of the drug and called the NFL office and done the dirty work for him. Hi, Ruby.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you, honey, for that sweet kiss on. Hey, look, say hi to Claire. Say hi to Claire. Say hi to everybody. Hi, honey.
Oh, so cute.
Claire? Oh, I know you're mama's girl. So I'm a mama's girl. I'm a big mama's girl. All right, that's enough. Your 5 seconds of fame are up.
All right, kid.
So, all right. Yeah, I think it definitely has division implications. It gives the Jags and the Titans a little bit of a leg up, so to speak. But they were another team that had a draft that, outside of a couple of players, you're like, is there a plan here?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on? Bless you.
Sorry, I'm crazy over here. Okay.
My doggie's making you sneeze. Oh no.
Doggies never make me sneeze. That's kitties. But yeah. So moving on to the Colts draft. Well, I think that the biggest problem with their whole draft is that they gave away their first-round draft pick to Cleveland for Trent Richardson. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how that pans out, obviously. It didn't start well, but they kind of screwed themselves up on that. I'd rather have a first-round running back probably than a Trent Richardson at this moment.
I'm a Trent Richardson believer. Everybody knows this. He definitely didn't do as well as I expected that he would last season. But a whole off season in the system, and some time to work with everybody. Maybe that will help, and he's going to come out and he's going to be a beast. It almost reminds me of another Alabama running back, and that's Mark Ingram, who has kind of never really found his groove either, although he had some nice games last year.
Yeah, it comes and goes for sure. We'll see what happens with Trent Richardson. Haven't quite seen it yet, but maybe it's an anomaly. Maybe he'll get it straight in this offseason. We'll see. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you. I think Dante Moncrief was, for me, my favorite of their draft picks. I think he is outstanding. I think he's going to be a very good target for Andrew Luck. Like, he really needs one.
Right. Gee, thanks for making sure Andrew Luck has a weapon, because whatever. Yeah, I mean, from what I've gathered on they didn't have that many picks. They only had 5 picks. So, I mean, he's honestly my favorite of their picks as well. So not a lot on that. I mean, their first round pick was offensive tackle, and okay, he can play either tackle or guard. Okay.
Yeah, I think that Brad Wells, who's been on this show before, who is the driving force behind Stampede Blue, he was not a big fan of that pick, and wasn't a really big fan of their draft overall. If you had to rank them, and I know it's unfair, and we've talked about that, but hey, life's not fair. If you had to rank them, Houston, Jazz, blah, 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 how would you rank the AFC South in terms of draft results?
I would probably say, and I feel like it just comes across as biased, but I would say Texans, Jags, Titans, Colts.
Okay, that's fair enough. The
Jags gambled on their high draft picks, I feel like. They gambled a lot more than the Texans did.
Okay. It's very, very, very close for me. I would say Jags edged the Texans just by hair.
It could be right, depending on your viewpoint.
Yeah, Jaguars, Texans, Colts, and then Titans. But, when we're talking about Colts and Titans, that's another hair. But it's the hair of the dog and not a very attractive hair. So,
well, maybe
hopefully it'll all work out. We'll see. Just in terms of overall, the division definitely sucked last year. Do you expect the AFC South as a division to be better this year?
It's gotta be. It can't just be like the Colts go to the playoffs by default because they suck in the second half of the season. I don't know if anyone remembers that.
They benefited from a very weak division and the fact that the other teams stunk.
Yep. So, I mean, I think that honestly, the Colts. Okay, if the Colts didn't get worse, then I think that, and the Jags and the Texans definitely, I feel like, improved. We're going to have to see on the Titans just because I don't know how they're going to fit the pieces.
I completely agree with that. Wait and see mode. A lot of it depends on how their quarterback situation falls out. Is Jake Locker the guy? Does he stay healthy? Is he going to continue to show the progress that you saw in the very brief times that you saw him last year? So definitely.
Now what's going on?
It's funny, we were talking about Jaguars Twitter just a few minutes ago. A guy that I follow on Twitter, who's part of the Jags brigade, said that 7 and 9 would win the division this year. I'm not so sure that's not a bad prediction.
I want to believe, I just have to believe that it can't be that bad. There's got to be at least, the winner of the division has to at least be 8
or 9 and 7. You would think 9 and 7. Surely whoever separates from the pack and is able to perform well can win 9 games, but I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see. Still a lot of off season left. Training camp is going to start for most teams, well, for all teams. in July, mid-July, late July. So we've got, still some OTAs to go, some off-season to go, and then training camp. So a lot can still change. You never know. Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast. Injuries happen, things happen. We're seeing, unfortunately, oh, I don't know what's going on. Sorry about that. She definitely is on one tonight. Hey, look at me. Pay attention to me.
Where's my attention?
There have been some arrests this off season, so there's still a lot of off season left to go. We will see. Claire, I want to thank you again. The hour always goes by so fast. I always love talking football with you. You're just a great person and a great football mind. Tell everybody again where they can find you.
Well, thank you again for having me, Sharona. It's always my pleasure. You're a blast. And you can find me at NFLfemale.com, doing Wednesday nights with NFL Female Podcast at Blog Talk Radio, and on Twitter at TheClaireBear23. And Sharona and I always retweet us. So
yeah,
watch Sharona.
We'll be tweeting out Claire's handle, and I always retweet their show and all of that. And Claire, you said something earlier. I want to just reiterate that I'm trying to get back into writing too. It gets hard sometimes. The real world interferes, and you do get burned out and all of that. But I'm starting to write again too, so I can definitely sympathize with you on that. I'm Sharona. You can follow me on Twitter at Sports by Sharona. This is the extra point, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the show, and I just completely forgot. We are produced, by the way, by the National Gridiron Network, www.nationalgridironnetwork.com. Jump on there and check out all the great articles and other shows that are being produced. I also write and do work with NFL Female on behalf of the Tennessee Titans. Our Tuesday night weekly show, The Zone Blitz, is on hiatus. We're taking a little bit of a break. We'll be coming back as training camp gets closer, but we needed to take a little vacay. So you won't be able to see us live unless something big happens. We're going to pop in and do some shows if something big happens. But you can check out our archive on the NFL Female YouTube account, and you can find me live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on Yahoo Sports Radio. Game Over with Vashti and Sharona, talking all things sports from a female perspective. So be sure to check us out. Have a wonderful Friday night. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week talking some NFC South. So I hope you'll tune in to that, and we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.